Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there today. We're talking about ball throwers. That's right, quarterbacks. We're going to start and sit here for Week 8 fantasy football, and we got a lot of great options here once again. But before we dive into Week 8, two things. First thing, though, how'd we do in Week 7? And to be honest, Week 7 was an absolute banger because out of the 25 quarterbacks we gave a start or sit designation to, 20 of them were correct for an accuracy percentage of 80%. Some of the biggest misses, Mac Jones, Taylor Heineke, Ryan Tannehill. Some of the bigger hits of the week. What about Tua? Tua being a start and then finishing as QB1 in Week 7. Also had Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan as well in the hit column. So a great overall week in Week 7. Can we do it again here in Week 8? Well, before we get into every matchup, every player, every game this week, we got to make sure we talk about our giveaway here one last time. October is almost over. I know it sounds crazy, but our October giveaway, the bundle giveaway of a signed CMC jersey, a mystery pylon, a Manscaped box, and a $50 Fanatics gift card, a bundle giveaway valued at over $300, is coming to an end. We're going to pick a winner here in just a few days. Make sure you head over to prizepicks.com, sign up for a new account. You can either download the app or head to the website. You create that new account using the Headliners referral code, make your initial $20 deposit. Heck, we'll match your deposit all the way up to $100, and then you are entered in. Plus, you can play Prize Picks with us all year long and make a little bit of extra money. Looking forward to doing that. But now is the time we dive into Week 8, all of the matchups, and we're kicking it off Thursday Night Football, Green Bay Packers, Arizona Cardinals. And talk about starting the week off with a head scratcher, right? I mean, obviously on a weekly basis, you want to start Aaron Rodgers. That's kind of just like a thing that you do in fantasy football. But then he lost Davante Adams, and we're like, all right, well, at least he's still got a few other weapons. And then he lost Allen Lazard, and now we're like, what are we going to do? Is he really going to rely a lot on Randall Cobb, Amari Rodgers, Big Bob Tunyon? I think he can. I mean, this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about. It's not like he's just reliant on one wide receiver. Now, with that being said, the ceiling that we're used to with Aaron Rodgers may not be the same with no Davante Adams and no Allen Lazard, but he still has plenty of options to throw it to. And you know, more than likely in this game, they're either going to be keeping pace or trying to catch up to the Arizona Cardinals, which is one of the best offenses in all of football. Aaron Rodgers going to have to throw. Plus, over the last few weeks, we've seen Aaron Rodgers kind of use his legs a little bit more, kind of trying to get that belt back. You know, on that discount double suck it tour that he's on. We're still starting Aaron Rodgers here this week against the Arizona Cardinals. As for Kyler Murray, I mean, he stays a must start, right? This guy only has one interception thrown over his last 4 games. In Green Bay, only allows 16 fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks, but Kyler's on cruise control right now. For the first time, maybe in a long time for him, he's out there and he's just playing free because the defense is playing great. They're giving him opportunities to go out there and kind of relax a little bit second half of the ballgame because they're walking around with big leads. They got big lead energy. You know what I mean? It's definitely something to pay attention to in Arizona. Plus, they want to win this ball game. They don't care that there's no Davante Adams. They don't care that there's no Allen Lazard. They're trying to get to 8-0 and make a statement on Thursday Night Football, primetime football. I'm definitely going to start Kyler Murray here this week. And now, once again, just like we did in the running back show, we're going to hip thrust our way over to Sunday football. We're talking about the Carolina Panthers and Atlanta Falcons. And Sam Darnold has a case of the yips. You ever seen the movie Tin Cup where he's like great at golf and then all of a sudden he just can't figure it out and he just slicing things all over the place? That right now is Sam Darnold. Over his last 3 games, he only has 2 total touchdowns and 6 turnovers. The hell's going on in Carolina? Now, they've already come out and said, hey, no, we're not interested in Deshaun Watson. Sam is our guy. So that gives him a vote of confidence, but the guy just is not playing well right now. He's going up against the Atlanta Falcons here this week that allowed right around 19 fantasy points per game. He's got the weapons to throw to, but for whatever reason, just can't seem to get on the same page with them as of right now. So until he does, he's going back to the sit column. What about Matt Ryan, though? The opposite can be said for him. He's looked great his past couple games. Back-to-back games now with 300 yards passing. And why is that? Why has the ceiling raised for one Matt Ryan? They're using Kyle Pitts. Novel idea. I know. They're not just lined up as a tight end on the offensive line. No. He's lining up in the slot. He's lining up on the outside, and he's winning matchups on a play-by-play basis. They're really improving their overall offense by utilizing him the way they are. Going up against Carolina, whose defense has been struggling as well, allowing right around 19 fantasy points per game. We're going to start Matty Ice here in Week 8. Now we went to Buffalo for the Bills and the Dolphins, and it's not very often in fantasy football that you take the prior week quarterback 1 overall and then sit him the following week. But that's what we're doing this week with Tua. It's just a different ballgame. Now, Tua played out of his mind last week. He had 4 touchdowns, 291 yards passing, did have 2 interceptions against the Atlanta Falcons, finished as overall quarterback 1 in week 7. Not taking anything away from him for that. This is just different. Now he gets the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, coming off of a bye week. Right now, the Bills number 1 in the NFL against opposing quarterbacks, allowing only 13 fantasy points per game. It's just going to be one of those things where he's going to have to try to nickel and dime down the field, and I don't think it has a high enough ceiling to outperform the guys that I currently have as a start. Don't hate Tua, but not where I want to start him here this week. As for Josh Allen, of course, you're starting Josh Allen, especially in this matchup going up against the Miami Dolphins. He's a must start here. And actually, I'm going to head over to Prize Picks on Josh Allen, and I'm going to smash the over because it's set at 294.5 yards, and that's a number he's been able to eclipse here over the past few weeks. So definitely going to head over there and do that. But Josh Allen in line for another great ball game coming off a bye week. Now we head over to Chicago for the 49ers and the Bears, and raise your hand out there if you think that Justin Fields just isn't ready for his current situation, because that's where I kind of think he's at right now. He's trying to do too much, he's struggling too much, and he's turning the ball over way too much. Now has 6 turnovers in just his last 2 games. He's trying to do too much with the football, right? He's trying to be Superman on a team that he can't be Superman on. Now, Matt Nagy is to blame for a lot of this. That's my 100%, opinion. But the offensive line is doing him no favors. He's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. Like I said, he's trying to hold the ball in the pocket too long. I'm not a huge fan of his throwing motion. It seems like it's a little bit long right now. It takes a little bit long for that ball to get out, giving the defense more opportunities to jump passes or knock it down at the line of scrimmage. It's not a bad matchup for him here this week. Going up against San Francisco, they allow 20 fantasy points per game, but you can't start Justin Fields just yet. The talent is there, just not the time for it. It's too risky. He's going to be a sit. As for Jimmy G, this dude misses George Kittle, and for whatever reason, the team has kind of abandoned Brandon Ayuk at this point. So it's really lowered the ceiling of Jimmy G on a weekly basis. He's had under 200 passing yards in 3 out of his last 4 games played. Now going up against Chicago, they'll have around 18 fantasy points per game. With that limited ceiling, the limited touchdown upside, and the emergence, I guess you could say, last week of Elijah Mitchell on the ground, that's something I think they try to continue here this week. I'm going to bench and sit Jimmy G. Now we go over to Cleveland for an interdivisional matchup of the Browns and the Steelers. And does Baker return? We still really don't know. Is it going to be Case Keenum back under center? We really don't know. Other things. What about the availability of Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham? These guys seem like they're hashtag perma-hurt on a weekly basis. Plus, Pittsburgh, coming off of their bye week, they are allowing right around 19 fantasy points per game, though. But just take a look at the overall situation in Cleveland. Is there anything that you see in this passing game that makes you want to start one of these quarterbacks? We were sitting them, at least Baker, the entire first part of the season, regardless of their health, because they run the ball so much. Now they get Nick Chubb back. I expect a heavy dose of the running game on the ground. Plus, they sprinkle in some Demetric Felton and some Dearness Johnson. Not going to start anybody in Cleveland. As for Pittsburgh, for Big Ben, I guess we can kind of say the same thing, right? We know that there's no Juju in this offense, still has plenty of weapons to throw to, but he only has 1 game all year in which he's thrown for at least 2 or more touchdowns. That's a problem. Plus, he's only thrown for over 300 yards 1 time. Can he really avoid the pass rush of the Cleveland Browns? We know Big Ben ain't exactly what you'd like to call mobile nowadays. So that pass rush is legit in Cleveland. Can he avoid it? Because if he can, the Browns allow right around 22 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. The secondary is the weak part of the Cleveland defense. I don't know if I can trust Big Ben to avoid that pass rush enough, though. There's too much risk there. There's not enough ceiling because we haven't seen that touchdown upside here to start the season. He's too risky. He's going to be a sit for me this week as well. Up to Michigan now for the Lions and Eagles, and Jalen Hurts continues to be a must-start quarterback in fantasy football on a weekly basis. He's a much better fantasy quarterback than he is an NFL quarterback. I can say that for sure. He's now gone 3 weeks without completing at least 60% of his passes. That is not good. He's being saved by his legs weekly. They just can't seem to get this offense going down the field between him and the likes of Devontae Smith or Jalen Reagor, heck, even some Dallas Goedert. Now, Detroit, they allow right around 20 fantasy points per game. And they allow 22 fantasy points per game to running backs. And I guess we can kind of view Jalen Hurts as somebody who's going to excel in the running game once again here this week and carry him to another solid fantasy day. We're not overly reliant on the passing game. Typically, the way we view quarterbacks is somebody who's going to excel through the air and then give us that bonus, that gravy through the ground, right? That's what we're looking for. Jalen Hurts is basically like swapped. We're banking on the ground game, and anything we get through the passing game is the bonus. In a matchup against Detroit, he's going to remain in the start column. As for Goff, I just can't. There's no touchdown upside in this offense right now. He only has 1 touchdown combined over the last 3 games. Just doesn't have enough consistent weapons that he can utilize to move the ball consistently down the field, deep down the field. Once they get into the red zone, they're not overly utilizing TJ Hawkinson, or defenses are just taking him away. Philadelphia allows right around 19 fantasy points per game, but I'm not risking it this week, and I'm going to sit Jared Goff. Up to Indianapolis now for the Colts and the Titans, and have we seen the return of Ryan Tannehill? I don't know if I want to go that far, but he's turning the corner, right? He's moving the right direction. He's had back-to-back games with rushing touchdowns, and that is greatly helping his fantasy production because he hasn't thrown for multiple touchdowns in a game since week 3. It also looks like A.J. Brown, he's definitely turned the corner. He's feeling better. He looked better in week 7. Julio Jones kind of just being sprinkled in at times, and we know we're going to see a butt ton of Derrick Henry on a weekly basis going up against the Indianapolis Colts, who are right on 19 fantasy points per game. I like the way that this offense is moving in Tennessee. They're starting to regain some confidence, and that's when they really put up the points. So I'm going to start Ryan Tannehill. As for Carson Wentz, same damn thing. Carson Wentz is on fire right now. A lot of people just want to hate on Carson Wentz because of his days in Philadelphia, but right now, the guy is playing great football. He has no interceptions on this team since week 2. Heck, he only has 1 interception all year long, and he's had at least 2 passing touchdowns in 4 straight games. He's really starting to get on the same page with Michael Pittman. Look at some of the weapons he's had or hasn't had. T.Y. Hilton has been banged up. Paris Campbell, he's always banged up. He's really relying on Mo Alley-Cox, Michael Pittman, and the running game with Jonathan Taylor, and the guy is putting up great numbers. A matchup against Tennessee who allows over 20 fantasy points per game. Yes, I'm starting Carson Wentz once again here in week 8. Over to New York now for the Jets and the Bengals, and talk about the tale of 2 spectrums here. On one side, you got the Jets, which is basically a dumpster fire at the quarterback position right now because Zach Wilson, he's hurt. So you're either going to rely on Mike White or recently traded for Joe Flacco. Hell no, you ain't starting either one of these guys in fantasy football against the Cincinnati Bengals. Please tell me, please tell me that you're not out there debating this, because it really is no debate. On the Bengals side of the ball, though, Joe Burrow is dealing right now. He's had at least 2 touchdowns through the air every single game this week, and now he's averaging over 300 yards a game passing over his last 4. Not the easiest of matchups. The Jets allow 17 fantasy points per game, but the only reason they don't allow a lot more to opposing quarterbacks is because most of the time opposing teams are getting a lead and just running the ball on them, which I kind of expect this week. However, the way that Joe Burrow plays and the connection between him, Jamar Chase, and now all of a sudden we're seeing T. Higgins go out there and get like 15 targets a game. Yeah, the passing offense is still elite, and we're starting Joe Burrow. Now we head down to Houston for the Texans and the Rams. And this one, another easy one for me to talk about, not too difficult for most people to understand here. We're definitely going to start Matthew Stafford in this matchup, right? He's currently quarterback 6 overall in fantasy football, averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. And luckily for him, the Texans allow over 22 fantasy points per game. So he's definitely going to find himself in the start column with the likes of Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. He's utilizing Van Jefferson a lot. So many weapons at his disposal. Now, I'll have a lot of questions. Do we think the ceiling is limited because they get a lead and run late? For the most part, yes, but if you watch the offense in LA, they really don't take their foot off the pedal very often. They're a very big play offense, and even though they may not be trying to go out there and score big points every single week, the big plays are there so often that it really helps that ceiling stay pretty safe. So yeah, we're still starting Matthew Stafford. What about for Houston? No. Even if Tyrod Taylor does play, which it sounds like there's a chance that he will, no. The ceiling is just capped. It's a lot easier to run on LA than it is to throw on LA, and it's not easy for Houston to run on anybody, like I said in the running back video. This is not where I'm trying to tempt fate here this week. A lot of people will look to Tyrod's play early in the season and be like, dude, this team is different with Tyrod, and I agree. They are better with Tyrod Taylor. However, not good enough for me to want to start him here in week 8. Now we head out to LA for the Chargers and New England Patriots, and it's good to have Justin Herbert back, isn't it, here coming off of his bye week? I mean, prior to the bye, he was just out there mushroom stamping people, on a weekly basis. The defense had no chance. aside from the game just before the bye where they got waxed by the Baltimore Ravens, but we're just going to kind of chalk that up as a bad game because in the 3 weeks prior to that, he'd gone out and thrown for 11 touchdowns to no interceptions. Now they're coming off the bye week in which they had a week to prep for this game and get healthier, right? Mike Williams, a little bit banged up before the bye. Everything's coming out seeming like he's good to go, which definitely takes this offense to another level with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. Great matchup here this week for him going up against the New England Patriots in which he's going to continue to throw the ball. Definitely going to start Justin Herbert. As for Mac Jones, dude has been much improved. Got to give him credit. As of right now, the best rookie quarterback in the NFL. He's had 2 passing touchdowns now in 3 of his last 4 games. However, all 3 of those games were at home. He's on the road this week in LA, and he's struggled on the road. But here's what I found interesting. Did you realize that he's only played on the road twice this year? Here we are going into week 8, and they've only played on the road twice. He's really benefited from a lot of home games, has won Mac Jones. He's reliant on the short passing game and getting his running backs involved early in this ball game. It's a solid defense against LA, a solid pass rush, but I don't see the ceiling being there on the road. Too much of a risk. Going to sit Mac Jones here this week. Over to Seattle now for the Jags and the Seahawks. And if you really want to sit there and act like you want to start Geno Smith, there's got to be a 1-800 hotline to call. There's got to be something. Oh, here it is. 1-800 I suck at fantasy football. That's what it would be if you want to start Geno Smith this week, because this dude, he just isn't it, right? He's not Russell Wilson. He's very big play dependent. If it wasn't for that big play by DK Metcalf this past week, dude would have been absolutely horrific. He looks bad. The offense doesn't look great. They're not involving Tyler Lockett. We're not starting Geno Smith here this week. What about Jacksonville? You got Trevor Lawrence coming off the bye week. More scoring opportunities? Doubtful. I mean, Seattle does allow right around 20 fantasy points per game, but we haven't seen multiple touchdown passes in a game since week 1 from Trevor Lawrence. His floor, fairly safe because he utilizes his legs once he gets near the goal line. He's not going to be a start, though. He will make it inside my top 20 rankings, but he's going to be just outside that start category. There's just too much risk. There's too many better options for me here this week in week 8. Down to Denver now for the Broncos and Washington football team, and I'm a fan of the Heinicke in Washington. I mean, the ceiling just hasn't been there, right? It's just so low right now. 2 touchdowns over his last 3 games combined. Denver, number 7 in the NFL against opposing quarterbacks, allowing only 15 fantasy points per game, and he just doesn't have enough healthy weapons, right? You don't forget, this guy lost Logan Thomas. He lost Curtis Samuel. Did he ever really have Curtis Samuel? Anyway, I mean, Terry McLaurin's been banged up for a few weeks. He's starting to turn the corner. He looks a little bit healthier. It's just not enough. Antonio Gibson's not 100%. Until we can get more healthy options for Taylor Heinicke here in Washington, not going to risk it. He's going to remain in the sit column. What about Teddy B, though? Teddy Two Gloves out there playing well overall. I mean, I'm actually going to go over to Prize Picks. I'm going to smash the over this week because it's set at 245.5 passing yards, a number that he can easily eclipse because he gets Jerry Jeudy back this week. And remember, they had some great chemistry early on in the season. Plus, the Washington football team allowed the most points to opposing quarterbacks, 30 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. And we see Teddy B go out there. He's had multiple touchdown passes now in 3 straight games. He's definitely going to be a start for me this week, and I'm definitely heading over to Prize Picks to smash that over. All the way down to New Orleans now for the Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Jameis revenge game. He needs help, though. I mean, he's waiting for Michael Thomas. Even if he were to come back, is it enough to catapult the guy in this matchup? I don't think so. I mean, he's just too boom or bust, and he's super reliant right now on Alvin Kamara in that short passing game, which is great because it gives him the safer floor because he's not forcing it down the field and throwing a buttload of interceptions. But it's also keeping his ceiling super low because he's kind of touchdown dependent from the quarterback position. I expect Tampa Bay to get a lead in this game. Can they force Jameis to make some mistakes? That's the biggest question, because if they can, he's definitely going to be somebody you want nothing to do with your fantasy football lineup. I have him marked as a sit for right now just because I don't think he has consistent enough weapons to give him that safe, a safe 16 to 18 point floor on a weekly basis. He just doesn't have it. Very big play dependent. He needs those big 50-yard touchdowns. He needs that check down pass to Alvin Kamara to go 35 to the end zone in order to have himself a solid game. So I don't really want to go into this one expecting big plays and banking on them. So I'm going to sit Jameis Winston. As for Tom Brady, 100% we never sit Tom Brady. They're saying there's a chance that Gronk plays. We'll have to wait and find out with that. AB, he was spotted at practice on a crutch. That does not look good. But does he really need him? Now, we know that in the past, Marshawn Lattimore has shut down Mike Evans. We've seen that for years. However, he's still got plenty of weapons. It could be a big Godwin day. It could be a big tight end week. We may see a little bit more O.J. Howard or even Cameron Brate here this week. Maybe it's Tyler Johnson. This guy, very underrated in Tampa Bay. He could have himself a good week. They're stacked when it comes to weapons. I'm not overly worried about AB potentially not playing and Mike Evans being limited. There's still more than enough firepower on that offense to have a great day for Tom Brady, going to remain a start. Which takes us to Sunday Night Football. Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings. Two teams both coming off of their bye week, which means that maybe they come into this week a little healthy, they're rested, they're prepared. Now, before the bye week, we know that Dak was having a calf issue. They're saying that everything should be good to go and that he is on track to play. And if he plays, you obviously start Dak Prescott. With the weapons he has at his disposal and the running game behind that offensive line, it's definitely an opportunity for him to go out there on a weekly basis, regardless of the matchup, and put up a good ball game. Could this be one of those matches where we see them go back and forth with stud wide receivers, maybe a CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson battle in this game? Potentially. And for that reason, we're starting both of these guys. Kirk Cousins, he's still fringe top 12 overall on the season at the quarterback position, and he's played one less game than a lot of people. All of his weapons are healthy, with the likes of Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, maybe some Tyler Conklin there. We know Dalvin Cook kind of raises that floor on a weekly basis due to his pass-catching upside. Should be a fun game to watch. Both these guys firmly in the start column. Which only leaves us Monday Night Football, the New York Giants, Kansas City Chiefs, which is, yes, going to be my Manscaped matchup of the week. Just a reminder, as soon as this show is over, head over to manscaped.com, get yourself something nice for your travel bag, get yourself an early Christmas present, because everybody loves Christmas presents. Just make sure, when you do that, use the promo code HEADLINERS at checkout, get 20% off your order and free shipping. Now, as for this matchup, what do we do with Patrick Mahomes, right? This dude just went out in week 7 and threw for 0 touchdowns. That hasn't happened since September 29th of 2019. Been a long time since we've seen him have a 0 in that column. Can we expect that this week? No, probably not. This is not the norm for Kansas City, right? The offense does look different. It looks like it's just struggling to get onto the same page. Andy Reid and that offense, they're going to figure it out. And how would you feel if you spent that early draft pick on Patrick Mahomes? You benched him. He goes out and throws up 38 points this week, and you lose because you got too cute with it. Can't get too cute with Patrick Mahomes. He's got to remain a start. As for Daniel Jones, for him, it's really all about what weapons does he have. Now, last week, he utilized Dante Pettis and John Ross, but what about Kenny Golladay? Does he return this week? Kadarius Toney's still sitting out there. Sterling Shepard is banged up. They have plenty of opportunities for some big weapons to return to this offense, but do they get them? Well, we saw Daniel Jones do pretty good with lesser weapons just last week. And plus, maybe this raises the rushing upside as well, because Kansas City is vulnerable there to the rushing quarterbacks. Kansas City allows 25 fantasy points overall to opposing quarterbacks. That's second most in the NFL. May sound crazy, but with the likelihood of some of these weapons returning here this week, I'm going to go ahead and start Daniel Jones. So that's going to wrap up my starts and sits for the quarterback position here, Week 8 fantasy football. Hopefully I was able to help answer a few questions, give you a little bit of an outlook on all of your players. Just a reminder, though, if you're looking between two guys and you don't know which one to start, our rankings videos come out on Thursdays, so make sure you hit the like button for all the videos all throughout the week. We greatly appreciate that support. Don't forget to get into that giveaway now. October is almost over. Links down below in the description. But for now, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week, and we'll talk to you later.